Life is hard, and with all the stress, one can often dream of a vacation. And this was the case for Dwayne Antonio Morris. And without even seeing it coming, it turned into a nightmare by this woman. Overshadowed by the druggings in Colombia, it is easy to forget that this is also a problem in Brazil. A problem that they call Goodnight Cinderella. Dwayne Antonio Morris, born in St. Elizabeth, Jamaica, but at the age of 10, he moved with his mother to America, to South Minneapolis, and that is where he will build a home with his partner, Tamatha Richmond. A successful businessman and an entrepreneur, Dwayne was already handling millions of dollars in a portfolio of businesses, and by all accounts, he was successful, sharp, focused, and driven. A provider in his community, he was respected by his family and friends. He would often go on vacation with his life partner, Tamatha Richmond, to different countries and different cities, but this time he'll be traveling solo with his friend to Brazil, to Rio de Janeiro, a huge seaside city in Brazil, famous for its beaches, the Rio Carnival, its vibrant nightlife, and for many men, the attraction is also the beautiful women who can be seen walking around in the city. And so with the stresses of the Western world, this made perfect sense for Antonio and his friend to depart the United States for Brazil. The idea was to have a quick break, a change of environment, de-stress before returning back to the US and get back to work. August 7th, 2024, Antonio and his friend arrive at the Rio de Janeiro International Airport. They make their way through security before making their way outside to the taxi rank, where they board a taxi, which will take them back to their hotel. As they drive through the streets of Rio de Janeiro, they will soon arrive at their hotel in the south of the city, a building named Edificio Mendoza. Soon after arriving at the hotel, they will freshen up before exploring the nightlife. And this is where Antonio will initially meet the femme fatale Leticia Clara Bento da Silva, a 23-year-old from Rio de Janeiro. She would strike a conversation with Antonio. Everything seemed normal. There were no red flags. But Antonio's judgment was incorrect, as Leticia was a thief and a scammer from one of the most dangerous and notorious neighborhoods in Rio de Janeiro. In 2024, it's still a scary neighborhood, but in the early 2000s it was worse when it was overrun by military police who were trying to fight criminal and gang activity. But Antonio wouldn't have known this information, as this lawless lifestyle is what shaped Leticia's worldview, because after all, this is the environment she was raised in. Less than 24 hours later, on August 8th, 2024, Antonio and Leticia had both agreed to meet that evening. She would be bringing along a friend for a double date. The meeting point would be around the Lapa district, famous for its nightlife and the many restaurants around the area. The pair had initially agreed to meet earlier, around 9:30, but the girls turned up late. They will meet at this restaurant on a busy street in Lapa. Antonio probably had no idea the intentions that these girls had for him and his friend. As Leticia arrives, they head towards the restaurant. She is with her friend, Julia Brandao Gaudino. As they both sit in the restaurant, Dwayne Morris accompanies Julia to the table where they will soon enjoy cocktails and other drinks. And they will keep drinking in the Lapa district until the early morning. Shortly after midnight, they will make their way in a 30-minute drive from the north of the city down to the south to the Mendoza residential apartments where Dwayne Morris and his friend are currently residing. The building and the street adjacent are littered with CCTV cameras as it captures Dwayne Morris, his friend Leticia and Julia entering the building. They will then walk past the building security desk at reception before entering the elevator as Julia plays with her hair. Dwayne and Julia later share a moment alone in the elevator. They then leave to the building's rooftop, where they both continue drinking, with Julia smoking cigarettes. Returning to the elevator, they head back down to the apartment, where everything else which proceeded in that room that night remains a mystery. However, what we do know is that the group kept drinking, and at some point, Letitia and Julia spiked Dwayne Morris's drink with Rohypnol. They then exit the building without being suspected by the security guard, who even opens up the gates for them as they flee into a waiting car into the night of Rio de Janeiro, disappearing into a different part of the city. More than 12 hours later, Dwayne Morris's friend, who is clearly disorientated, enters into the elevator. He is shirtless and he struggles to put it back on. As a woman enters the elevator, he tries to maintain composure as he makes his way towards the reception area. He speaks with the security guard at reception, trying to understand and gain clarity as to what happened. A short while after, the security goes upstairs to knock on Dwayne Morris's door, but there is no response, and so they go and retrieve the spare keys. As they enter the apartment, there is no noise, only the lifeless body of Dwayne Antonio Morris, who was left foaming at the side of his mouth. The coroners carry him away as he is pronounced dead. He had spent less than 24 hours in Brazil before losing his life. Shortly after, the news of his death spread like wildfire among the travel community, especially amongst the so-called passport bros.
Brazil are investigating after a Minneapolis entrepreneur was found dead on a potential business trip.
43-year-old Dwayne Morris was the president and founder of Blue Waters Consulting and Seoul Community Development Corporation. As Reg Chapman reports, the Roosevelt High School graduate had strong ties to the community.
His life partner, Tamatha Richmond, was equally left confused with what had happened.
Certainly a situation where Dwayne was targeted, that these people were experienced, and they drugged Dwayne, they robbed him, they left him for dead.
With all the media attention, the Brazilian authorities had to act fast. They had to do something about this immediately, and so they got straight into action, working diligently, ensuring that no stones are left unturned. The first wanted signs for Letitia are published. With days going by, the police are making progress, slowly but surely. The police that are stationed outside, gathering all kinds of evidence. The forensic team are working hard, and CCTV cameras for the building and the street are being reviewed for any further evidence. And the police are making good progress, and so finally, after 2 weeks of investigating, the Federales may just have a break, and now they are sure that they will find the perpetrator of this crime. On August 20th, 2024, Letitia was arrested. Arrested for the crime of murdering Dwayne Antonio Morris. She's expected to be sentenced to a minimum of 25 years in one of the harshest female prisons in Rio de Janeiro. Letitia will be around 50 years old by the time she's released from prison. Her friend Julia is still on the run, but there is no doubt that with all the information and evidence that the police have against her, she will soon be captured and will face justice. Dwayne Antonio Morris's body was flown back to the United States, to Minnesota. A funeral service was held for him on 28 August 2024. It was attended by close family and friends. In a service where his life and other accomplishments were celebrated. No one expects to go on vacation only to return in a casket. But these are some of the many dangers facing many men who have visited either Colombia or Brazil. And so these videos are to serve as a warning that all that glitters isn't gold. Dwayne Antonio Morris didn't deserve what happened to him, But with evil lurking in every corner, one must take precautions. And so with that said, we shall always remember Dwayne as a man who impacted the lives of thousands in the way he lived, and unfortunately in the manner that he passed away.